Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gayle Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another session on Living Regret Free. And we have a perfect lady with us today, Susan Burrell, and she is going to talk with us about all kinds of things because she's an author, she's a speaker, she's a podcaster, she's really a professional on empowerment. So, Susan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so people will get to know who you are and why you're on this show?
Okay. Excuse me. I'm happy to do that, Gail. So the little bit I think everybody might want to know is that my first half of life, I just started my 60s, woohoo. And the first half of my life, I was in a marriage that was for 28 years, and it really kind of became a debilitating marriage. And so when I went into divorce, I really had to work to get to know who I was. And as I was doing that with all sorts of spiritual skill sets, like guided meditations that I ran myself through, or affirmations, or lots of crying and all that stuff, I found that I really didn't know who I was. And in fact, I didn't like myself very much. And I think a lot of people, when they're going through a trauma like divorce, kind of wake up to the fact that, wow, I submitted myself to someone. I gave up my power. I gave up, whatever it is that we as women give up when we're in that kind of submission role. And so I had to really learn how to love myself. And so then I had to ask hard questions like, who am I? What are my values? Things like that. And a lot of why I was able to get out of it and be happier and healthier mentally and emotionally was because I have these skill sets. I've been teaching what people call mindfulness now, or mindset things, for close to 20 years. And I practice those and myself. And so that's what helped me to learn who I was and how to love myself. And so now that's the work I do, Gail, is I out of the marriage and out of the brokenheartedness, I began to own my other skill sets that I had been told as a small child were not important, or, don't act like that because you'll scare people, because I'm an intuitive healer. So there's lots of intuitive things that I hear or feel about myself, but also about other people. And that's the skill set I use when I work with clients now, is to help them and support them intuitively to develop their own guidance system and learn how to become empowered themselves.
Well, it's interesting, Susan. I don't know if there's something about 28 years. I just interviewed another woman who got divorced after 28 years. So maybe there's something magic in that number. So listeners, if you're coming up to that 28th year, pay attention.
Yeah, right. Gail, because we hit 25, I thought, oh, phew, we're the lucky ones. We're not going to get divorced. And then, and then 3 years later, that's exactly what was happening.
It's funny because I, of course, do not fit into any of those categories. I was married for 45 years before my husband passed away, but it was really due to him, not to me, because I wasn't any of those things that you've said. I was in business when we got married. I told him my business came first. I told him he came second, kids would come third, and he said that's okay because the kids will come first. You will come second because you will always take care of yourself, and my business will come third. And we were happier than most people who say they put each other first. But we were very clear about our priorities, and we didn't mess with each other's businesses, so it worked out really, really well. But you talk a lot about empowerment, and you talk about intuitive healing. So give our listeners a couple of strategies that they can use to live an empowered life.
Okay, so one of the things that I know, and I see it with my clients all the time, is the story that we tell ourselves, right? And everybody's got a story. It can be a happy story. Often it's a, oh my God, how did I end up at this point in my life with this stuff, right? And so the first thing I would recommend to anybody is to get the garbage out of your head. That's what I say all the time. And what I mean by that is either journaling it or talking out loud into a recording. I find journaling is the best because it's the physical activity of writing that engages another part of the brain that allows you to let go, I think. And so to write it all out, and it's not to write it out so that you can read it over and over again and go, oh yeah, that's my story. It's to write it out so it's out of your brain, because whenever we empty anything out, whether it's a closet or our brain, we have more room for new stuff, right? For new neurosynapses to develop, and not because we're running the story. Because when we run the story in our mind all the time, or when we're talking to friends, here's my poor me story, it continues that loop in the brain of neurosynapse. It's like a roadmap. And so we're constantly the victim. I am the victim. I am the victim. I am the victim as you run your story, as you tell it. So you journal it out so you can create space for new synapses to develop and hook up and get all juicy about who you want to be, or who you always were, but you forgot because the story was on top of it, hiding all of the light and the love and the creativity and the brilliance that you are. So that's one thing, just to write it all out. You close the book. Don't go back and read it over again. It's not important. And another thing I would recommend is to do positive, to help that neurosynapse to build in a positive way, is to do positive affirmations. And at least that's what I did. I wrote positive affirmations. In fact, I have inspirational cards, Gayle, and I pulled a few before our call today. And one of them I pulled, that these are affirmations I worked while I was going through divorce, when I didn't know myself, I didn't love myself, all that stuff. And this one I wrote and I worked a lot was, I am beautiful, balanced, strong, and courageous. And so you want to put those positive affirmations intentionally into your brain. So the new neurosynapse you want to build, that's about being courageous and strong, or whatever it is that's a positive outcome for you, begins to sync up in the mind. If you just say the affirmations out loud, I often think of Miracle on 34th Street, where toward the end, Natalie Wood is saying, I believe, I believe. A lot of people use affirmations like that. I believe it's not real. I believe it's not true, So to do it intentionally, that with intention to build new neurosynapses in your brain, is really important. So journaling and then intentionally running affirmations that lift you up. And
well, that's what I was going to say. You have to not only say them, you have to believe them. And I think that's the fallacy that a lot of people think, oh, I say my affirmations every day. Then they may be saying them, but it doesn't mean that they're internalizing them or they believe them. And so that's a big factor. I mean, when you put something out there, you need to put it out there and believe it, live it, breathe it. And that's really, really important. So
absolutely.
I would think, especially now with everybody being home and so close together, I mean, there's a lot of drama going on in a lot of homes. So
yes, I bet there is.
So what do you see going on today that shows people need to really live an empowered life?
Okay. So if you're isolated with somebody you love, right? I think it's important to take time to kind of separate your energy, because also energetically we sync up with each other, and which is probably why your marriage, Gail, was so wonderful, because energetically you and your husband were probably really synced up together. Um,
That is
regardless of
true.
how
You're absolutely
regard
right. Yeah.
yes, and if we're synced up energetically with someone and we are feeling less than within ourselves or judgmental about the other person, because we're all in a tiny room right now. I think a lot of people might be starting resentment lists, or you're not listening to me lists. That's on my thing. You don't listen to me. Oh my God. So to know that energetically you are already connected, means that you have to be consciously aware of that, in the sense that are we connected in a loving, kind way? Or are we connected in a judgmental, resentment way? And if that is so, the latter, then I really encourage you to consciously delineate what is your personal energy field. And how you can do that is by sitting silently for, even just 5 minutes a day, and calling back your power to yourself. And how you do that, I'll just give this to your listeners, is as you're sitting for 5 minutes, say your name over and over. So I would be saying, I am Susan. I am Susan, with intention to call your power back. And you're calling it back to your heart center, not your brain, because the brain runs a bunch of stories, but into the heart. And as you call that power back, you might afterwards, I don't even say might, you will begin to feel more powerful, and you'll be able to discern, is this resentment list I've started true? Is it real? Or discern, wow, I love my spouse. I really do love and respect my spouse. That's what I'm going to focus on today. But you have to pull the energy entanglement away a little bit, so that you can see what is your truth, what is your value.
Wow. Well, you said you're an intuitive healer, and I'm not sure everybody knows what an intuitive healer is. And you're a spiritual guide. And some people say, is that all woo-woo stuff? So tell us what it really means to be an intuitive healer and a spiritual guide.
Well, Gail, in my life, I have certainly been called woo many times. Many, many times. In fact, a woman that is now a close friend of mine, and when I started classes, I don't know, 10 years ago, I ran into her in the market and I said, I'm starting this class. I think you would find huge value in it. And she looked at me and she goes, oh, you're going to teach me that woo stuff? I said, absolutely. And now she's, happier than she's been before. She's healthy. Her life has transformed in ways she couldn't have known if she hadn't gotten involved with me and my woo stuff. So, so an intuitive healer, I had no clue that was really what I was, because like I mentioned a few minutes ago, my intuition was suppressed by my family of origin because it made them uncomfortable. And I didn't know it. This happens to a lot of people. I would suggest that many, 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 probably everybody, has intuitive insight that at some point gets squashed, and then they're taught not to believe their intuition, which is, a lot of people say, I just went with my gut. That's your intuition. And we're taught in the outside world that doesn't count for much. And fortunately, that's shifting a lot. A lot of men and women, mostly women, are allowing themselves to listen to their intuition. And part of that means you got to get quiet, during the day. You got to sit for at least 5 minutes and just listen to yourself, which is, in my opinion, your higher self. And then, so that's part of the spiritual guide thing, is I have my own personal spiritual practices that I do. I mentioned journaling, affirmations, I meditate. I do guided meditations, but a lot of people don't know how to do that, and it makes them nervous. So as a spiritual guide, I help individuals also develop their own spiritual practice, whether it's hiking in the mountains and saying their affirmations, so because they're active physically and it downloads, or just learning how to meditate in the first place.
Well, it's interesting because I certainly don't consider myself an intuitive healer, but I do know that I have intuition. And but I don't meditate. I find it difficult to meditate. But I guess what I do instead of meditating is when I'm sitting and I have a cat in my lap and I'm petting the cat. To me, that's perfect. I mean, that's just perfect. So, and I don't even know how the cat got there because I just sit, the cat jumps up, and then I just don't even realize it. But to me, that's very, very soothing. But what exactly do you do on days when you feel like you aren't living an empowered life? And unfortunately, I mean, that can be put upon you by circumstances, by the way people talk to you, or something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. Or, I mean, there's so many things that can happen. So, what do you do in a situation like that?
So I got to be straight up with you, Gayle. That happens to me. I live an empowered life, but I get knocked off center often. And sometimes it's my own mind running a silly, dumb story. Or it is somebody that said something to me that felt harmful. And so for me, because I am a Scorpio, Gayle, so I gotta like work it through. Often I have to stamp around, go for a walk, journal, cry, yell, talk it out. And then once I have all those moving pieces sort of like outside of myself, like laying it all on the table, what's real, asking myself, what's real? What is the truth that's going on here? And what's mine? Because also, if your intuition is engaged, we often pick up other people's stuff. I call them drive-bys, walking down the aisle in the supermarket, especially now when everybody's got these masks on. It's hard to discern, is this a kind, loving person, or is this somebody that's going to, just kind of put their little anger gnomes on my shoulder kind of thing. So, so getting back into the empowerment mode for me is usually a process. And the way I know I'm off my center is if I'm feeling anger or shame or even grief pulls us off our center, right? And by center, I mean the truth of who I am. For me, my truth is that I am free, I am happy, I am joyful, I am creative. That's my truth. And when we can discern what our individual truth is, which actually is probably very similar for everybody on the planet, then when I'm knocked off by feeling, anger, let's say, I take the time to sit and go and work it out, right? Either write it out or, like I said, stamp it out by going for a walk. And then I can come back to my center, which is love and compassion and freedom and happiness.
So, what's the transformation that you've seen in your clients who were at one time not living an empowered life? I mean, you're not hanging around them 24 hours a day. So what are the transformations that you've seen in them, and how has it mattered to them?
So I have several amazing clients, and most of them have come to me and straight up within like the first session say, I don't like myself. I really don't like myself. And it often starts with, I don't like the circumstance I'm in, whether it's a marriage or going through divorce or being fired from a job. The circumstance they think is the definition of who they are. And so what we do is we get down to the truth of who they are, which is 99% of the time that they are this amazing love and light and creative vessel. And when clients begin to see that, their transformation becomes so deep and so profound, and it becomes sustainable, because then I also guide them with skill sets of, like I said, meditation, journaling, affirmations. And so when they do go off their own center, they can reconnect with those pieces of empowerment. So I usually support clients in coming up with 4 pillars for their foundation. And that's unique to each and every individual. I have one client that I've been working with on a regular basis, and she says to me now, she goes, I didn't even know, she's in her mid-60s. She goes, I didn't even know that I was supposed to love myself, or that I could love myself. Nobody ever explained that to me. I was to not be seen or heard as a wife, as a mother. And now in her mid-60s, she's standing up for herself. She's found her voice. She's now the power of attorney for her mom. She advocates when I met this woman a little over a year ago, she had a very hard time saying what she wanted, or even believing in herself. She just didn't know. And now her mantra, or her affirmation, is I love and respect myself, and I speak my truth.
Wow, you know something, that's so hard to believe that there are people who have that situation. I guess I was very lucky. My parents were fabulous. I was raised very independently, strict, disciplined, but and loved, but just grew up with a lot of self-esteem. So I guess I was very lucky. But we're coming to the end of the show, Susan, and I want people to know where to find you. I don't know if you have a gift for anybody, but tell us how they can find you, and if there is anything you'd like to offer, and the best way to get in touch with you.
Okay, I'd be happy to, Gayle. The best thing is to go to my website, Susan Burrell, BURRELL.com. There is a free gift. It's a guided meditation. I call it Out of the Box Thinking. And they can go to the SusanBurrell.com/free-gift-meditation. And I also have a book that they can investigate on the website. It's called Live Your Empowered Life, a 30-Day Journey. The book is an interactive workbook. It's not a book you read and go, oh, now I feel empowered. It's a book you got to dig deep and work. And if there's anybody listening who didn't grow up with the amazing family and esteem that Gayle did, I so invite you to investigate my website, SusanBurrell.com, and get my book, Live an Empowered Life, a 30-Day Journey, and begin the work for yourself.
And the whole point is, and Susan has exemplified this today, it's never too late. It is never too late to start. So for those of you who have said, oh, well, all my life, or it's too late for me, or I can't do this, or this happened to me, or that happened to me, or he wronged me, or she wronged me, this is your time. Go to Susan's site, find out what she has to offer you that will help you. And, this is it. This is your time. You cannot make excuses any longer. There's so much help there for you that there's no reason for you to say, I can't do this. So, Susan, it was very, very interesting the way you presented it today. So go to her website, Susan Burrell, BURRELL.com. Give them the link for the gift again, because I want to make sure they got all those dashes.
Okay, yeah, there's quite a few. It's SusanBurrell.com/free-gift-meditation.
Okay, there you go. And folks, if you're interested, go to her website. If you want to learn more about me, go to my website, spunkyoldbroad.com. If you are over 50 and you'd like to be part of my virtual SOB club, go to facebook.com/groups/virtual SOB club. We'd love to have you. Susan, this has been absolutely delightful. I mean, I think that, for those of people who were having questions before, I think the last 6, 7, 8 weeks has made them question even more. So You are very valuable to them at this point, And I think it's a very necessary thing that they learn about what you have to do to meditate, to become empowered, to make choices for yourself. All of those things are important. So thank you for being with us, Susan, and we'll look forward to having a lot of people contact you.
Thank you, Gayle. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.